Cold Lake Air Force Base, winter. A CF-18 pilot straps into a 43-year-old fighter jet. His mission: intercept a Russian bomber testing Canadian airspace. The hydraulics are temperamental. The avionics glitch. The radar cuts out for seconds at a time. This jet first flew when his parents were in high school, and right now, today, this is all Canada has. Because the replacement jets won't arrive until the early 2030s, if they arrive at all. Justin Trudeau signed the contract. $19 billion. 88 F-35 stealth fighters. The most advanced aircraft on Earth. Done deal. Final. Except it might not be final, because Mark Carney, the former Bank of England governor who could become Canada's next Prime Minister, represents something different, a different vision, a different bet. And defense analysts across Ottawa are quietly asking the question nobody wants to say out loud. Could a future government rip up Trudeau's F-35 contract and start over? This isn't just about fighter jets. This is about $19 billion, 8,000 potential jobs, fractured alliances with Washington, and a choice that will define Canadian defense for the next 50 years, and the clock is ticking. Canada has been trying to replace the CF-18 Hornet since the early 2000s. Every government promised, every government failed. The Hornets were supposed to retire 20 years ago, then 15 years ago, then 10 years ago. They're still flying, still defending Canadian airspace, still intercepting Russian bombers that probe Arctic borders test response time. And every year, they get older. Every year, maintenance gets harder. Every year, the risk gets higher. Stephen Harper explored the F-35 back when it was cheap. Then the costs exploded. He backed off. Justin Trudeau campaigned against the F-35. Called it wrong for Canada. Unsuitable. A conservative mistake. Then he won. Then he looked at the alternatives. Then he reversed completely. In 2022, the contract was signed. 88 F-35A Lightnings IIs, 5th generation stealth fighters. The same jets flown by the US Air Force, Norway, Denmark, the Netherlands. Partners, allies, interoperability. $19 billion. Not just for the jets, for everything. Weapons, infrastructure, training, maintenance, spare parts for decades. Delivery starts late this decade. First operational squadron. Early 2030s if everything goes perfectly. And nothing in defense procurement goes perfectly. Which means the CF-18S keep flying. Airframes designed in the 1970s. Built in the 1980s. Extended. Upgraded. Patched. The Royal Canadian Air Force has spent hundreds of millions keeping them airworthy. But there are limits. Structural fatigue doesn't care how much money you spend. Metal fatigues. Systems fail. At some point, you can't fix old anymore. Pilots know it. They strap in knowing they're flying museum pieces against modern threats. Maintenance crews know it. They work miracles keeping these jets mission capable. The Air Force knows it. They plan around gaps they can't publicly acknowledge. And now Mark Carney might tear up the replacement plan. He hasn't declared he's running for Liberal leadership. But the signals are everywhere. The positioning, the economic nationalism, the focus on jobs and sovereignty. And if Carney runs, if he wins, if he becomes Prime Minister, the F-35 contract could be the first thing he puts under review. Because Carney represents a different philosophy. Not Washington's choice, Canada's choice, not American jets, Canadian jobs, not Pentagon interoperability, economic sovereignty. The alternative has a name, Gripen, Swedish, 4th generation, not 5th, but modern, capable, and crucially, it comes with an industrial offer. The $19 billion bet. Here's what Trudeau bought. The F-35A, conventional takeoff, same variant the US Air Force operates, same one Norway integrated, Denmark, Netherlands, coalition aircraft, alliance standardization, 5th generation means stealth. The airframe geometry deflects radar. Radar absorbent coatings scatter returns. Internal weapons bays eliminate external signatures. Against Russian S-400 air defense batteries, this matters. A lot. The F-35 can penetrate airspace that would shred a conventional fighter. It gets in, strikes, gets out, before the enemy knows it was there. Then there's sensor fusion. Every F-35 links to every other F-35, to ground stations, AWACS aircraft, allied ships. The pilot doesn't see isolated sensors. He sees one integrated picture. Threats, targets, friendlies, all merged. It's not just a fighter. It's a node in a network. Canada plugs into that network. NORAD cooperation becomes seamless. NATO operations become automatic. Training with allies uses identical systems. 19 billion buys all of that. The jets, weapons integration, infrastructure upgrades at Cold Lake and Baggetville, pilot training pipelines, simulators, maintenance facilities, spare parts for 30 years. It's an ecosystem, a commitment, a bet on American technology, and allied integration. But delivery doesn't start until late this decade, optimistically. First operational squadron, early 2030s under current projections. That's 8 years from now, maybe 9, maybe 10 if there are delays. And there are always delays, so the CF-18s keep flying. Jets that should have retired in 2010. Still defending sovereignty, still intercepting threats. Canada has reinforced the airframes, upgraded avionics where possible, overhauled engines, spent hundreds of millions extending service life, but you can only extend so far. These jets are structurally fatigued, systems are outdated, parts are increasingly scarce. And if a future government cancels the F-35, those Hornets fly until the mid-2000s and 30s. 45, 50 years old. That's not a plan. That's gambling with national security. The Swedish alternative, nobody's talking about. Mark Carney hasn't officially entered federal politics, but speculation isn't speculation anymore. It's expectation. When he runs, not if. And defense analysts are gaming out what a Carney government would do. First priority, jobs. Second, economic sovereignty. Third, industrial strategy. In that framework, defense procurement isn't just buying equipment. It's nation building. The alternative is Sweden's Gripen fighter. Here's the pitch. Instead of $19 billion to Lockheed Martin and the Pentagon, Canada partners with Saab, builds aerospace capacity domestically. Saab has made this offer before, to other countries. Thousands of high-skilled jobs, assembly or maintenance facilities, technology transfer, Canadian engineers working on cutting-edge aerospace. It's not just fighters, it's an industry. Jobs in Montreal, jobs in Ontario, jobs that compound, that build expertise, that create a defense industrial base Canada doesn't have now. For a political leader running on economic nationalism, this is pure gold. Campaign ads write themselves. A Saab Bombardier partnership, assembly lines, high-paying aerospace careers from coast to coast. That's not defense policy, that's economic development, regional strategy, electoral dynamite in key ridings. But tearing up the F-35 contract has costs, serious ones. First, money. Defense contracts have cancellation penalties. The specific clauses in Canada's F-35 deal aren't public, but industry analysts estimate penalties could hit $500 million, maybe more, depending on timing. That's $500 million for nothing. No jets, no refund, just a bill. Second, diplomacy. The United States didn't build the F-35 program to make money. They built it to create a coalition, allied air forces that operate identically, interoperate seamlessly, share logistics, share intelligence. Canada walking away sends a message Washington won't forget. Canada doesn't prioritize the alliance. NORAD gets complicated. Intelligence sharing gets reviewed. Future technology requests get delayed. The Pentagon has leverage in this relationship. Long memory. They use both. Third, NATO. The alliance runs on interoperability. When Canada deploys to Eastern Europe, integration with American, British, German, Polish forces is critical. If everyone flies F-35s and Canada shows up with Gripens, integration faces technical hurdles, different data links, different maintenance, different procedures. It's manageable, but it's friction, and in combat, friction kills. So why would a future government even consider this? Because Saab claims faster delivery. The Gripen E production line has capacity now. No developmental delays. Order today, operational squadrons in 3 to 4 years, not a decade. And operating costs. Published estimates put the F-35 at $33,000 per flight hour. Gripen costs roughly half that. Over 30 years, that's billions in savings. Plus operational simplicity. The F-35 requires specialized facilities, proprietary tools, global logistics chains. The Gripen was designed for wartime highway operations. Small crews, minimal support. For Canada's Arctic, that matters. Northern bases don't have Cold Lakes infrastructure. Operating austere has real value. By the way, if this analysis is valuable to you, support the channel. It helps us keep digging into these complex defense stories. F-35 versus Gripen, the capability gap. Let's talk capability. F-35 versus Gripen. On paper, it's not close. The F-35 is stealth. The Gripen is not. Against advanced Russian air defenses, S-400 batteries, integrated networks, modern fighters like Su-35s or Su-57s. The F-35's low observability is survival. It penetrates contested airspace, strikes targets, escapes before countermeasures engage. The Gripen uses different tactics: advanced electronic warfare, terrain masking, standoff weapons launched from outside threat ranges. It's effective for its mission set, but it's not invisible. Sensor fusion is another gap. The F-35's avionics integrate everything: radar, infrared, electronic support, data links, one unified picture. The Gripen has advanced systems, AESA radar, sophisticated electronic warfare, but not the same integration architecture. Network-centric warfare? The F-35 was built for it. Multiple jets share targeting in real time. One detects, another shoots. Force multiplication. A smaller F-35 force achieves effects requiring larger numbers of conventional fighters. But here's where Gripen makes its case. Operating costs compound. $33,000 per flight hour for F-35. Half that for Gripen. Over 3 decades, billions of difference. Maintenance complexity matters too. F-35 requires specialized facilities, proprietary diagnostics, complex supply chains. Gripen was designed for simplicity. Sweden built it for wartime highway operations, small crews, quick turnarounds, minimal support equipment. For Arctic operations, this resilience has value. Northern bases lack southern infrastructure. Operating austere is operationally relevant. Cold weather performance. Both handle extreme cold. But Gripen has decades of Arctic operational experience in Sweden and Finland, proven in environments matching Canada's north. The F-35 passed Arctic testing, but hasn't been operationally deployed in extreme northern conditions to the same extent. So which is better? Depends entirely on the threat. For high-intensity conflict against peer adversaries, penetrating advanced air defenses, striking strategic targets, surviving electromagnetic warfare environments, the F-35's capabilities are unmatched. For sovereignty patrols, Arctic intercepts, responding to emergencies across vast territory, Gripen's flexibility and lower costs might prove more practical for routine missions. The question isn't absolute superiority, it's strategic fit. Which aircraft serves Canada's specific requirements, operational environment, and fiscal reality? That's where politics enters. The political calculation. This stopped being purely military analysis years ago. Now it's electoral strategy. Trudeau's F-35 purchase was supposed to end decades of indecision, give the Air Force certainty, give allies reassurance, close the file. But elections reopen every file. A leader like Carney, if he enters federal politics, represents fundamentally different priorities: economic nationalism, domestic industrial strategy, Canadian jobs over alliance convenience. In that framework, defense procurement becomes industrial policy. And politically, in Ontario and Quebec, where aerospace employment concentrates, this message resonates. Imagine the campaign: Saab Bombardier partnership, Montreal assembly facilities, coast-to-coast maintenance hubs, thousands of high-skilled, high-paying jobs. That's not just defense spending. That's economic development, regional strategy, electoral gold. But the Pentagon won't sit quietly. The United States has leverage. NORAD is binational, integrated command, shared responsibility for continental defense. Canada abandoning F-35. Washington remembers. For decades, future defense requests face delays. Technology access gets restricted. Intelligence sharing gets reviewed. Not necessarily retaliation. Natural consequences. Questions about reliability. Alignment. NATO matters equally. The alliance functions on trust and interoperability. When Canada deploys forces to Eastern Europe, seamless integration with American, British, German, Polish forces is mission critical. Everyone operating F-35s except Canada creates technical challenges. Modified planning, non-poolable spare parts, divergent procedures, compatibility issues. Not impossible, but friction. And in crisis, friction degrades mission success. So the political calculation: can economic nationalism be pursued without fracturing critical defense relationships? Can thousands of Montreal jobs be promised without alienating Washington? Can Gripen be positioned as smart independence without appearing to reject alliance commitments? Narrow path, easy to misstep. Electoral consequences either way. What nobody's saying out loud. The F-35 program has a history: cost overruns, technical delays, operational setbacks, years to resolve issues. Multiple partners have wavered. Turkey got kicked out entirely. Switzerland faced domestic backlash. Denmark debated extensively. Canada reconsidering wouldn't be unprecedented. And if Saab genuinely delivers operational Gripen squadrons in 3 to 4 years, faster, cheaper, with job guarantees, that's legitimate policy alternative. But here's the counter-argument. Canada canceling F-35 and choosing Gripen sends an unmistakable signal to every ally. Domestic politics trumps alliance commitments. Next time Canada requests American support, intelligence, technology, operational assistance, Washington remembers.